Hello, everyone.
Hello.
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 Howdy.
Hello.
Uh,
Good. Well, welcome to the summer 2025 SEIC board meeting. Woohoo! That's great. I look forward to these 2-hour meetings, maybe a little bit more than our 8-hour meetings. I'll just have to confess. But no, the last meeting was great, and I hope we have a very productive meeting tonight within the 2 hours that we've set for our time frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Um, Kelsey, I know you're counting away, but it looks like we have a quorum. Is that accurate?
Yeah, hey, everybody. Good afternoon or evening, wherever you are today. We have 20 elected voting positions in this committee, and all 20 are filled currently. A quorum is, I believe it's 40%, so we need 8 people, and we certainly have 8, so our quorum is all good to go.
Well, great. Well, great. So, just to go over the flow of the meeting today, it is the 2-hour meeting, hence the later starting time. And so, we don't have all the sort of updates from, the board or the director. And so it's kind of a get down to business meeting. We have a few motions to vote on and some points of discussion that are on the agenda. So we'll go ahead and start with our check-in. But before we do, I want to just make sure that we sort of review our ground rules. If you'd like to speak, you can raise your electronic hand. So let's go ahead and do a test of raising the electronic hand just so we make sure everybody's has full functionality in the meeting. Great. See that most people have that. We have multiple thumbs up in some cases, so I love that. It's just a lot of excitement there to bring into the table. And so, when the phrase borrowed from Anna is, when it's your time to speak, speak from the heart and get to the heart of the matter. And so, to that, in the spirit of getting to the heart of the matter, we're going to go with our 2-word check-in. If you could let us know who you are and what you're representing, as well as 1 word about how you're feeling coming into this meeting, and then what you are bringing to today's meeting. So, I'm feeling. I'll go ahead and start, and I'm feeling excited, and I am bringing motions and updates. I'll just go out and on my screen here, and we'll call out the next few people. So we'll go with Patrick, and then Kelsey and Mike Arnoff. Patrick, you're muted, or your sound's not on. I'll give you a second to try to sort out that audio. So Kelsey and Mike and Anne.
Hey, Ryan, thank you. I am feeling excited and overwhelmed. Can I have 2 words? And I'm bringing organization today.
uh,
All right, thanks, Mike.
I'm with Kelsey on the. Well, I'm overwhelmed a bit much, but I'm interested in hearing and kind of sorting things out, particularly with our leader program. But anyway, yeah. So I'm pleased to be here. All's good.
Great.
I'm feeling engaged and a little overwhelmed.
Okay. Thanks, Ann. We'll go with David Hughes and John McDonald and Krista.
Hi, I'm feeling cozy. It's rainy outside and I got a nice fire going and bringing support.
Good afternoon, everyone. John McDonald. I am the liaison between SEIC and the Regional Activity Council. I am feeling jazzed and I'm bringing, let's see, energy.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Krista Lensmeyer. I am new to the staff as the Chief Operating Officer for the ACA. So I am feeling welcomed. And what I'm bringing today to the meeting is wide open listening ears.
Thank you. It's great to have you on this call, Krista. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jeff and Ashley and Alan.
Hi, I'm Jeff Oxenford. I'm catching up. So I'm the vice chair of the Canoe Committee, sitting in for RJ. So I'll be listening and taking notes today.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and I am feeling strong and bringing attention.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Started talking and I was muted. Hi, I'm Alan, and I am bringing, I am interested, and I am bringing attention and focus.
Great. Great. Thanks, Alan. And we had just as a quick interruption to our flow here. Alan has, if you aren't aware, has stepped into the vice chair role. That's been over the probably, I don't know, when did that happen? A couple months ago, but
A few
Alan
months ago.
stepped forward into that role and has been doing a great job. So very much appreciated. We'll go with Jeff Atkins and John B. And we'll see if Patrick, hopefully we can get that connection.
Cool, Jeff Atkins, and representing IPC. I am currently immersed into the paddle sports leader programs. I'm doing several right now as we speak, and I am so I'm bringing some live perspective.
John Browning, chair of the Coastal Kayak Committee. I'm feeling overwhelmed and bringing interest.
All right.
I think I got it sorted out.
Awesome. Yes.
Patrick, I'm with the Pack Rafting Committee. Excited to learn some more new stuff and looking forward to all these new motions.
Great. Great. Thank you. Robin and Nancy and Joe Moore.
Robin Pope. I am very tired and bringing lots of interest to see where things go tonight.
Okay. Great.
Hi, it's Nancy, and I am vice chair for the UPC, Universal Paddling. I am feeling curious to see where things are with the leader path and just bring listening ears.
All right, well, I'm Joe Moore. I'm feeling frazzled, but yet joyful. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. Good to have you, Joe. I think we have Robert, Suze, and Rachel.
I'm Robert Kaufman. I am secretary of the board. I'm here as the SEIC representative from the board. And my feeling tonight is, when is the rain going to stop in Western Maryland? I think the sun just popped out for a brief moment. So we've had mucho amounts of rain.
It's my turn.
Yeah.
Suzanne, commonly referred to as Suze, ACA board president, and I am a little tired. I admit to that because I've been driving most of the day. And I am bringing, I think, listening, because I am always interested in learning more about our entire organization.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Okay.
Perfect. I'm Rachel Nagel with the subcommittee. I'm with Robin and Sue's feeling tired, and I am bringing the sup thing.
Right. I love it. Love it. All right. We have Tom Burrows, Bev, and I think Anthea, if I'm not missing anyone. So hopefully I'm not.
All right. So I'm Tom Burrows, and I chair the Safety and Rescue Committee. And today I'm feeling very busy and enthusiastic.
Hi, I'm Bev Coslet. I'm Vice President of the board, the ACA board. And today I bring a little heat. It's hot here. I bring some interest for the leader path and just general interest on what's happening.
Hi, Anthea. We'll go with Anthea and Stacy. I don't know if we had anyone else join here, but
Okay.
Anthea.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm Anthea Raymond, chair of the Surf Kayak Committee. And I'm feeling a little unsettled. I'm in Los Angeles. Lots of stuff going on here that we're still processing. And I'm bringing Zyrtec, which is actually just kicking in and making me feel much better about this 2-hour meeting. So.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Stacy. I am tired. Jeff, like you, have been in the paddle sport leader. I was a part of the community paddle sport leadership program, the hybrid program this last weekend, supporting a deaf person and interpreting for them to get their leadership. So that was pretty amazing and very tiring. So, and today I'm bringing interest, and I am bringing open mind, open heart.
Hey, Alicia. Welcome.
I'm only partly here. I don't know why my thing doesn't say my name when my video isn't on, but I'm not going to have my video on most of the time. I feel terrible. I have been down with a migraine all day and actually for like the better part of the month. But I pulled myself out of bed and I am here so that I can vote on the sheet and answer questions about the raft motion. I'm chair of rafting. I rallied.
Thank you for rallying and for being here and bringing emotion. So, well, good. Lance, maybe Lance, I think I might have skipped over you. So maybe you can wrap it up.
It's okay. I'm Lance. I'm the secretary of the SEIC, and I'm bringing coffee, but only for me. Sorry about that, folks. And yeah, that's all I got.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks, Lance. All right. Oh, hi, G. Welcome.
Hey everyone, this is Ji Wu, international representative. I'm joining the meeting from China. I'm feeling a little sick and then very tired. Been running 2 ICWs back to back in the last a week and a half, and also having a little fever since yesterday. And I'm bringing my ears and my open mind to the meeting. Thank you all.
Okay. Thanks, Shi. Was there anyone that I missed? I've got a lot of folks on my screen. Kelsey, you might, some people that have been part of this board for a while might have to verify, but I can't recall having this many people on an SEIC board meeting. So that's great. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's great to have such good representation and interest from across our discipline committees and the supporting member roles and from the ACA board and office. So I appreciate everyone being here and making time while you have workshops and different things going on in your life. So we're going to respect that time and try to move through our agenda, as efficiently as we can, while giving space to the topics so we can have a proper discussion. So Just to call your attention to some of the resources that you have access to through the agenda. We have the parliamentary procedures, so if anything gets out of hand, we can refer back to those, as well as our operating procedures. There's a link to the voting spreadsheet. So when it comes time for us to vote on the 4 motions that are under old business, as well as the approval of our previous minutes, we'll utilize that voting spreadsheet. And also as a reference is the SEIC policy manual. So hopefully everyone has access to those documents through the voting spreadsheet. Is there, Kelsey, maybe in the chat, can we post some of those links, or at least the link to the agenda, just so everyone has access if they're not getting through into this through CMS? Great. The first thing on our agenda is really to I want to give an overview of where we're at with the leader pathway and the rollout of that program, which is of a high level of interest. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen really quickly here. Can everyone see the slide deck on my screen at this point? Maybe I can get one person that can give me an affirmative. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So where are we here sitting in mid-June with our update, with the rollout of this new certification pathway? Let's see. Okay. So what has happened so far in 2025 and what we've accomplished? So we have a good number of ITs and ITEs who were onboarded through the 4 initial trainer orientation sessions. And so those were offered to ITs and ITEs, just an open invitation to all to participate in these in trainer orientation sessions. I don't know the number. Maybe Kelsey, you can put it in the chat. But I know that we had about 50% of our ITs and Es that indicated interest or signed up for the training sessions. And as just appeared in the chat, thank you. We had 70 ITs and Es that participated in these onboarding sessions, and now they now have their leader trainer or leader trainer educator certification. And so we with this first wave of our rollout, we got 70 people on board. The program is active. It became active in CMS in mid-May. And after a lot of work, we were able to roll out the curriculum shortly after that became active. But I feel like that was a good initial effort. We had a lot of really great participation by ITs and Es, and now they are LTs and Es in addition. And so, as I just mentioned, those the program became active in CMS in mid-May, and then right around the 1st of June or shortly before, we were able to publish all the workbooks for the leader track to Amazon, and they are available in a print on demand as well as Kindle format for purchase. And so we've had in some of the courses that have happened already, trainers have purchased the trainer version of the workbook, and they've also purchased candidate versions of the workbooks for their students. And so that workflow I want to just kind of take a second to recognize Kelsey and the immense number of hours that she put in to that, as well as Tara Faherty, and just the yeoman's job that they did in really getting this curriculum from where it was in sort of an approval phase for the SEIC board and ACA board, earlier this year, through work, the work they did, as well as mentioning Jake Taylor for his work that he did in bringing these to a published state where they are actually a revenue stream for the ACA at this point. And so that was a big job. That was much, it was, I don't know if it was larger than we anticipated, but it was a huge accomplishment. And so I just want to take a second to say thank you, to those people. And we do owe them our thanks as a board in ACA. In addition to those printed or Kindle format workbooks, there was a lot of work that was put into curricula supporting materials or resources for the curriculum. And so, as an LT or LTE, they were sent a link to a password protected page. At first, it was open. We didn't feel very good about that because of the amount of work that went into it. But shortly after, it became, password protected, and we're doing as much as I think we reasonably can without incurring a lot of expense to protect those materials. And so the link to that is available to LTs and LTEs. And there's all sorts of good things in there, from pre-course packet templates to written exam answer keys, just resources for the coastal program and tides, trip planning, tools. There's just all sorts of things that LTs and LTEs can use in support of their courses that they're delivering that we just haven't had with our instructor path and our instructor programs over the last 30 years. We just haven't. At least not organizationally. They've been in existence, through individual efforts and people doing that for their instructor candidates, but collectively and organizationally, to put this package back together, put this package together was a huge effort. So I mentioned a little bit that CMS was integrated. A little bit of a backstory on that. When we first received basically a quote from Aaron, who manages CMS. I think that quote we had a lot of sticker shock. There was a moment there where like, oh, holy cow. It was going to be like $40,000, to integrate Leader Pathway into CMS, and again, Kelsey basically work through sort of the existing framework there to create something that is workable and is in CMS, and people have their new certifications as leader trainers and educators. They can report or register their courses. They can report those courses. There's candidate evaluations that are specific to this pathway. And then not only for LTs and LTEs, but for those who are certified, they can now register their trips, request insurance, report trips. And so it wasn't just sort of like a half-hearted workaround. It was a solution that provides, really the same sort of outcomes and features that we've had in CMS. And so again, that was huge and really costs. I mean, there was the labor that went into it, but just in terms of a cost, in terms of contractors or something like that, there was no cost there. So, and then wave 2 of onboarding is for, we said we had 70 ITs and ITEs who were able to participate in the initial wave of orientations. And then out of those ITE, a group of ITEs and now who are now LTEs, there was a handful, like 8 or 9, 10, I forget the exact number, that have been given the resources to host sessions for the ITs and ITEs who weren't able to participate in the first round of 4 initial trainer orientation sessions. And so we're working with them to get their dates that they're available and to connect them with ITs and Es who were not able to, participate in that first round. And there's been, I've heard personally from about 5 or 6 who weren't able to participate in the first round that are looking forward to being part of it. And I'm sure, the office has heard of additional people that are looking to get involved. So really great response from our ITs and Es to get this program rolled out. Last but not least, that we've begun the next phase of onboarding, which involves our instructors. So we're moving beyond the trainer educator level and working to integrate instructors. How are we going to integrate instructors? Well, there's 2 different in our rollout plan that we approved in December. That was approved by the board. There's 2 different sort of classifications. There's the instructors who have provided these similar, or what we had in place before, the community paddle sports leader and the trip leader assessments. And so, there's a group of about 138 instructors who have, or maybe even more once you consider CPL, but somewhere around 130 to 150 instructors who've provided these programs, and they have, experience, and they went through training to get that endorsement and be to the point of delivering those programs. So for those, that level of personnel, we have, them being able to handle some of the multi-craft element of this program by acquiring or showing that they have a secondary skills assessment or instructor certification. We have virtual training sessions, 1 a month through the end of the year that we've sent out and people have registered for. And that will be different than the trainer orientations. The trainer and educator orientations will include some of that content, but it's really going to focus, have additional content focused on using CMS, performing evaluations, kind of things that they would not have, since they're not trainers who are used to doing IDWs and ICEs. So we have those virtual training courses out there. They have a registration form that they're filling out when they receive that invitation, and then they can either run their course with someone who's in this category, or an LT or LTE, but it can be 2 instructors who previously provided trip leader trainings. And we have something in place called an LTE. It's basically administrative oversight. They're going to help them with their paperwork. They're going to make sure it's just not a mess that Kelsey's receiving in terms of the reporting of that paperwork, the candidate evaluations, the course evaluations, all the things that we need to do administratively. The other category is, certified instructors who have not had any experience with our previous trip leader programs and CPL. And so for them, it's a largely similar process, but instead of being able to, do it with another instructor and then just get some sort of remote oversight, that they need to lead their workshop with someone who's an LT or E, so that we are, making sure that we have this be accessible, but we're bringing on more trainers who can provide this material, and also, go as far as we can to ensure quality and consistency in our standards. LTC. So as I said, we emailed out that invitation to the group of instructors, and we've already received about 20 leader trainer candidate registrations. So we are going through those registrations, and everybody's a little bit different. People are still learning what this program is. So, for example, some level 2 instructors have said, I want to be an advanced coastal leader trainer. And so there's, we have a response form, that we're sending back that, tells them, okay, here's where you can kind of come in, here's all the requirements that are in place and what you need to do. And we're giving them an action plan. There's a few that have just been sort of green lit to, host their course with a peer. They have an LTE lined up for administrative oversight, and they're ready to go. And others were giving an action plan of how they can achieve leader trainer status through the registration, meeting all the requirements, and providing an application at the end. So that is a big part of this next phase, as well as the monthly leader trainer candidate virtual trainings, which are scheduled. Another thing, we have the guide track. And so for those who become LTs or LTEs, they get an application if they want to also participate in the guide track. And so we'll start going through those applications pretty soon. There is work, to be done to have the guide curriculum reflected in the workbooks and additional resource materials. So I could have probably put that under the SEIC board issues. It's highlighted here as board issues that I'd like to sort of open up for discussion, as well as take questions that you might have, is, when do the existing programs end? That's something that we have to consider as a group. And so, we have announced this. It was approved late last year. Well, final approval by the board happened earlier. The ACA board happened earlier this year. And so there's a lot of people that may have had CPLs or trip leader assessment programs on the calendar. And we want to respect that and the amount of advanced planning it sometimes takes to put a course together, as well as give those people time to get onboarded into the new system. So we really need to take a look at the existing program end dates. And then we also need to take a look at the updates to the SEIC policy manual. I did the old, download the SEIC policy manual as a PDF, convert it into a Word document, and attempted a find and replace of instructor with the replacement instructor, comma leader, comma and guide. And I got about 3 sentences in and realized that this was not going to be an easy find and replace effort to update the policy manual to reflect the new program. So there's a lot of questions that have come forward that have reached me, and I'm sure more to the ACA office about, the update process, SEIC dues. And so, we're giving the best answer possible, but this board needs to weigh in on these issues. So I'm going to go ahead and pause. If we could go ahead and raise electronic hands if you have questions or comments. You can also use the chat, and we'll try to answer questions as they come in. But I want to just take, I'm going to set sort of a timer for like 15 minutes for discussion on leader pathway before we have to move on to some other agenda items. Hey, yeah, John Browning.
Yeah, have we thought about maybe listing the questions that come in with responses, sort of frequently asked questions page?
Yeah, we do have a log of the questions that come. Well, we have a log of questions that were generated during the trainer orientations. So I don't know if Kelsey, you can weigh in about any other resources, but we do have questions, and I know Tara's been trying to send out responses, but I'm not 100% up to date on where we are with that.
I got it. So if you go to the Leader Pathway webpage, which you can navigate to from the main ACA website, there's an FAQ at the bottom. So there's a handful of questions there. And at the last of them says, who can answer my other questions? And it asks for you to fill out a Google form, which goes to Tara. And anybody who has used Google Forms knows that it tracks all the responses and keeps them in a spreadsheet. So again, not many people have utilized that yet, but that is the method that we're using to collect all those questions, identify trends in the questions. And if there's, multiple instances of people asking the same thing, we'll add that to the FAQ, and then build that into our future communications about all this stuff. So we are collecting it. But the main question, like Ryan said, was what does this mean for the existing trip leader programs or CPL? And then a lot of people are asking, does this replace the instructor certificate? Some very basic questions that the current FAQ already address, but some people don't read.
Thanks, John. Hi, Nancy. Go ahead.
Well, just kudos to all the work you guys have put in to get all these things up on Amazon in digital or printed format and all the additional resources. I look forward to looking through those. And I'm also look forward to see how some of the UPC content got added in. So just thanks for all the hard work and curious to learn more.
Yeah. To address that a little bit, it's woven in through the workbooks. It wasn't one specific section, but there's certain content areas that UPC put forward that were integrated at different points through the curriculum. Just
thanks.
Really quickly, I don't know how many people heard this in the last meeting, but I think it bears repetition. Is the UPC came forward, with some ideas of how to make the ACA website more accessible. And so we were able to integrate a plugin for accessibility that we saw on another WordPress website. And so that was just a really, I want to thank UPC for their contributions in the, in this curriculum as well as that idea. So it was great. Thank you. I'm going to host more meetings at not 5 o'clock Alaska time, but I'm going to push them to later because I think they'll be shorter meetings. Everyone wants to, it's late in the day. So let's see. I'll just leave space open. Okay, yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, as I mentioned, as I sent an email to you, I'm up here mentoring some leader trainers now. And one of the big questions they have is like, what's an update? And so I think that's something we're going to have to get squared away and, getting them everybody adapted to the SEI paying the SEI dues now, and then them getting a better understanding how to do the insurance and things. So that's those little steps for certainly as we go more and more live with this, so people are getting really interested in wanting to know what all that stuff is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's come up consistently, from the trainer orientations through the questions we have now. With any right now, the answer that we've given folks, and I believe it's a solid answer, is that yes, there are SEIC dues, and it reflects the instructor certification program, but we need to bring that into policy for sure. Anthea asked if there's links to workbooks that we can share. So maybe we can put the link to the Amazon page. We're not sharing sort of common source links such as Google Docs or that sort of thing that can be downloaded and shared around. Of course, there's workarounds to what we've put out there, but the amount of effort that's gone in and intellectual sort of, I don't know if IP is the right word, but before in the lead up and what we paid Creature Learning for, as well as the amount of effort that's gone into that in the first half of the year. We're just not putting it out like that. So. Okay. To address, for our board issues that I have outlined here, one of I should have put the guide, curriculum, workbooks, and materials probably under SEIC board issues, but I think we need to consider the amount of time that this is taking Kelsey and Tara and myself to put together these materials. And so I know that she is busy from an ACA perspective. And I know there's a couple, people on the board here. I don't know if Beth is in the call, but we may need to look to bring someone else in to finish this up. It's a lot. So I'm going to put that out there. Yes. Excuse. Hey.
Ryan, do you mean like another contractor? Is that what you're referring to? Another Terra?
A contractor or reaching back out to Creature Learning.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I just was trying to make sure I understood that.
We have a good, the format and everything set up and the workflow to get it into Amazon. That took figuring out and that sort of thing. But I'm not saying that we for sure need to, but it's something that we should consider. In terms of existing program end dates, I would, love to hear from the board, but I think, with the executive committee, Lance and Alan and myself and Kelsey, we have talked about the end of 2026 for phasing out this program, and they're the old programs, I should say. And so that would give people an opportunity to recording in progress. So that's something to think about. And then in terms of the updates to the policy manual, if there's anyone that's interested, and you don't need to come forward on this call, but if anyone is interested and has bandwidth, please do reach out, because there's going to need to be it's not an easy find and replace. It just isn't. So let's see if there's any more questions here, and then we'll wrap up this section.
So Ryan, this is Joe Moore.
Hey, Joe.
I do have a couple questions. Like, how many of these curriculums have been taught so far, and what is the response from the community?
Well, I know Jeff has been involved in some active ones. I've seen some on the course calendar, on the ACA course calendar. And then I don't know, Kelsey, if you can answer that question. I don't personally know how many have been run or are in progress.
I know of 4 that I know about that have been run in the past month. I think 4.
So Kelsey, can you share with us maybe even just a redacted, so we don't know who taught the course, like what is the community feedback? Like what's the
I can check and see if any course evaluations have been submitted on them, but I have not been given any narrative directly, but I can check. I'll go look at that. Thank you.
And hey, Joe, I've just did 2 and haven't done my administration work yet. So there's going to be no documentation there now. But the feedback with the people so far has been I've done it for some outfitters, and so it's great for them as long as they're working in the calmer water environments. Things are working out, which right now I'm in Cape Cod. The people I'm working with right now, it's perfect and for them. Absolutely perfect. They're really enjoying it. Everybody, there's a sticker shock of picking up fees, for the SEI dues, but that was there with the instructor certs before. So that's what I'm relating that with them. It's like if you were instructor, you had to do the SEI dues before. If you were an instructor, you had to do instructor update before. The leader trainers, they're excited because again, you don't have to bring in another IT in the future. So hopefully, I won't be back up here unless come up for an instructor update or something. But they're they're excited about that portion of it. They're just more accessible.
and all the materials. So that was kind of daunting to me when I received them. There's the amount and length and everything else. Like, how are you utilizing that, Jeff? Because it sounds like you probably caught half of them so far. Are these sort of pre-course assignments that have to be read and respond to answers about, or like
I give them out ahead of time, and they're to go over look at it. I've allocated some time in the course. Like even though it says like 2 days for skills assessments, whatever, I ran the course for 3 days and had it where they had time to work on some of the projects and put together things. So that's how I've done it. In the future, I'm definitely going to probably just give it pre-work and then try to figure out some kind of accountability system for them to do it. It's tough because they're working, their staff here. These places are young folks, and this is not their life ambition to be paddle sports, goals. It's their goal right now to do it this summer, but it's not their goal to do it for the rest of their life. So there's some buy-in.
Yeah, I guess that was part of my concern, was just the marketability of it. If the length, the documents and the resources, and as good as they are, like that's a burden on people who aren't going to become professionals. And like just how other people are managing that. It's good to hear that you're working on it.
This is Stacy. We had the materials and it went really well. People were looking at them and reading them at night and then coming back with questions, and people were very appreciative of them. And the deaf student the deaf person I was working with was really appreciative because she got it in English as well. And so, but the other participants were as well. So I think from what I saw in the community paddle sport leader program, it was a benefit. It didn't seem like it was too much. People were really appreciative of it.
And so what's the lead time? Like when I'm teaching my courses now and for the UP program, I try to give 3 weeks, like for the online learning courses and for that we created in the the instructor manual snippets that are important for them to know. They need 3 weeks. Like what is the Jeff and Stacy, like what have you used for lead time?
They got theirs the day they came, the book.
Oh.
Same here.
Wow. Okay.
But since it was the same information that they were teaching during the classroom settings,
Yeah.
People had their books open, were looking at it, and then they were using those to discuss, and then they brought them to their rooms and they were studying for the test. So they were very appreciative to have them.
So like it was a resource during the in-person time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's how the workbooks are structured. You know, they're structured to be used, you know, during the class. Um, in terms of like lead time, one thing to kind of think about, and I know John, you had a pretty good John Browning had a good experience. He ordered them from Amazon, and they were, what was it, 3 days, John, JB? Yeah, about 3 days. You're muted right now, John. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was typical Amazon. I mean, it was greater than I expected, quicker than I expected.
Yeah.
It was just a couple of days and they were there. And the Kindle, I also ordered the Kindle versions just so I could have them on my iPad, and I got those immediately. It provided me with a link and I downloaded it, and that was it.
Thank you, everyone, for your engagement in this program. I will, in some of these issues, I'll bring forward, especially there. The program end dates and updates to policy manuals. Expect to see some follow up in Slack, just in terms of maybe a channel or discussion on that where we can weigh in. So. The other, I think, big ticket item that I wanted to cover today was just what we discussed at our March meeting in terms of e-learning modules. I believe we have an opportunity to, do this and request, funding for that. I wanted to just sort of bring back the content areas. If you recall, we had 3 breakout rooms, and each group kind of came back for, if we had to start with four four different modules to use in instructor and also now leader pathway certification courses. If we were to, pick 4, what would those 4 things be for content areas? And so, kind of looking at, and you can go back and look at the notes from the March meeting, the minutes. The conversation was captured there, but across the 3 work groups, we had. We had discussion and there was a lot of consensus around these 4 topics. And so, I guess just bring it back to the board, our board here. Are these areas, does this align with your memory of the discussion and things, that just to reaffirm that as we go forward with a little bit of planning. I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but a little bit of planning and sort of working with the office and looking at potentially a budget request, for the board. Is this, or do we feel good about this as content areas that would be useful to start with? I've got a thumbs up from Jeff and from Alicia. Okay, Patrick.
I'd like to know sort of what is the content of 2 of them at least. The ACA, I presume that's just the history and kind of the workings, and then legal and insurance. Like, to me, those are pretty simple, quick topics that can be taught in any course in a very short amount of time. The other 2 are fairly complex and worthy of e-learning kind of pre-course materials. I'm just kind of wondering what is in the ACA and what is in legal and insurance. Is it more than what we typically teach in an instructor development workshop?
It would be this would the spirit of this is right now is to take those topics that we do teach in instructor workshops and move them into a package that students, candidates would receive prior to arrival, so that we're not taking up the bandwidth that we use to cover these content areas in time and during the course itself. So I would say from the ideas that were generated and the summary of those, they were what I heard was pretty typical content that ITs were delivering at the beginnings of their courses. Nancy.
Yeah, those 4 areas look great. I had a similar question for legal and insurance, and I'm wondering if, well, a topic of discussion for quite a few years at the UPC is how to get EEC content embedded in all of our courses. And so that's happened with the instructor manuals and some of those things. And I'm wondering if legal and insurance would be a place to kind of introduce some of that basic EEC stuff, just as something to put in the back of our heads to think about.
Yeah, EEC code of conduct, those were things that were mentioned in the discussion in March. And I'd want to, before going to the board as they do their, start the budgeted process in September or October, we want to build these out. What would be included, something that we need to do, as opposed to just put these words up on a screen. And I think I forget who said it. Maybe it was, I think it might have been Alicia, but it was just the benefits of doing it this way is the consistency, the professionalism, that this content could be delivered across all of our courses utilizing this as opposed to having trainers. Now we have leader trainers and instructor trainers delivering this content. So in addition to a time savings, it's a standards and consistency. Yeah, Stacy, I think your hand was up next.
Yeah, I was going to actually say something really similar. I'm a e-learning content developer. It's my 40-hour week job. And so the concept of having it consistent is really big. So it's not just about, like I know Jay was talking about complexity and case studies and those things, but just having consistent across the board, everybody gets the same information is really good to have in e-learning. So compliance type stuff and legal and insurance would go in that. But then also things that people tend to ask a lot of questions on that they can go back and review that they may forget in a classroom setting. But some of that would be legal insurance and the course registration and stuff. I think that those two would rate highly on that for me.
Thank you. Robert.
Just a quick thought. Have you considered the possibility of maybe a module on an explanation, for example, of the overall structure of SEIC? Because it's very easy to become confused when you're on the outside looking in. For example, what's the difference between an instructor and a facilitator, the different levels, et cetera, et cetera. So it might be useful within the course and then also within the general public to have that kind of simple module.
Yeah, I think that would, in addition to the history of the ACA, about our organization and the SEIC as the primary group that they're joining, and a further explanation of that was definitely in the ideas that were generated a few months ago, I should say. Excellent. Yeah, Joe.
So I would just reiterate that I think the content of what these topics are thought of to include would really be informative to answer the question, and in a meaningful way. And the two that, legal and insurance and ACA, I think could easily be just a simple 1-page bullet point fact sheet for people. The other two seem like they're something that you would want to start a course ahead of time with because they're complex. There's more there to know, and learn about. But like the structure of the ACA and the SEIC, if we boil it down, is pretty simple. And the legal insurance is pretty simple. And so I would say that that's something just to consider. Consider the reason for giving people e-learning modules ahead of time seems to be to give them some sort of, pre-course heads up as the complex issues. And we could use the other two spaces there for things that are much more complex.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Yeah, Jeff, I believe your hand was up next. Hey, Jeff, you're muted right now. Kelsey, while we get Jeff a little
Yeah,
space
while he works
figured
on
out.
that. Joe, in a little bit, partially in response to your note about some of these topics being quote, quick and easy versus not so much. Another cool thing about having these and them being linked to CMS, meaning I'm sure all of us have heard at some point anecdotally that an instructor, either their trainer did not deliver one of these components or they don't remember it or some combination thereof. The content will be housed in the CMS for them to review at any time. And we can, if we decide to, make it a requirement before their certification is activated that they read it. And if you wanted to have a 2-question, quiz of some kind, knowledge retention check at the end, you could have that. But yeah, and thank you. Yeah, so the consistency, standardization, and then just verification that the person has seen it. Whether they remember or not, we can't necessarily control, but I know that, or at least I am told by a lot of the people that I talk to that they don't know what CMS is. They didn't know they had to use that, or they don't know anything about the ACA aside from the website and they couldn't figure out what their password was, so people just their level of interaction with all this stuff, if we can find it in one place, I think would be helpful. Aside from what the actual content is, I'm not saying that, but just these topics, if they're important enough, let's put them in one place where everybody can get it.
Yeah, Kelsey, that makes perfect sense to me. If the factor that is what are new instructors missing because ITs aren't teaching it, then yeah, I get that. Well, I was looking at it from the framework of like, okay, so what's complex? What do people need ahead of time that they can kind of get the language and the grasp of so that they can actually apply it rather than learn it on site in person? But what you just explained, if those are the things people are missing, that makes sense.
And there are some people who are going to show up to the day of a course without having read a darn thing. And we should hope that they'll apply it in advance. And with, for example, the leader pathway, some of these pre-course communications outlines, like hopefully everyone here will have some preset template of an outline to plug and play if they want to, including, please, before you get here, make sure you take these 3 modules in the ACA CMS. They take 5 minutes a pop, something like that. So hopefully we can get that pre-course communication standardized as it relates to these things.
I like that. It sounds good.
Thanks.
Hey, Ron.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everybody in the chat. Good comments. Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
I hit the wrong button, so I all of a sudden lost my Zoom on my screen. I like the categories. I think they're great. For the ACA, one thing something I can't cover or cannot be covered during a class is anything from the board or the organization. So I would love to see part of about the ACA, not only about the history and so forth, but what is the current mission? What's the thinking, and actually be introduced to the board and some of the groups like the SEIC. So I think that's an opportunity where the average instructor can see something through a class beforehand that they're not going to get in person. So I just add that in there for a comment.
Thanks, Jeff. Great. Hey, Alan, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. I think I'm just dovetailing on what I believe I heard Kelsey just say that If there was a way that this could be tracked in the CMS in terms of making sure that people have seen it before a certification goes live or whatever that might be. If we could make it some kind of actual prerequisite, either if not before the class, at least before that cert becomes live, I would agree with that. I think that would be a good thing to do. So, go ahead.
So, the budgeting process, September and October. So I feel, what I'm hearing in this meeting and sort of what to be the next steps is to flesh out, what the content is. Bullet point sheet on, or what it could be, bullet point sheet on each topic area. And so I think this would be a great opportunity to form a work group that flushes this out over the next couple months and gets back to the SEIC. So I'll go ahead and I believe, Kelsey, I can establish that work group. Do we need a vote or how to have a motion on that?
You don't necessarily have to have a motion to form a work group, but if you'd like to do it just for the meeting minutes sake, I'll record it for you.
I don't think we need to. We need a work group to put this together. So go ahead and if you just put it in the chat if you're willing to be on that work group or circle back. We'll go ahead and try to kick that off here in a week or so. So if you have the bandwidth and can kind of commit, I don't see this as being a huge effort. We're not writing the content. We're not coming up with narrative scripts. We're not doing any of that right now. We're just trying to flesh this out so we can give the board more idea of what would be potentially included in these modules and why they would be useful for us. So we'll go ahead and form a work group. And if you could reach out to me if you're interested in the next couple days, or you have somebody that you know of that may be interested. So that would be great. The only other thing that I really wanted to kind of plant in your, just put it out there, plant the seed. And we don't necessarily have time we have a lot of things going on right now as a board, a lot of big work in progress. But we have a lot of foundational programs, between the, Smart Start and the rollout of that program and that curriculum that, Kelsey and Robin and others really spearheaded. We have our level 1 IPC committee that has been sort of working on and, making progress at certain points, and then not quite sure where we are in that, where we've been trying to relook at level 1 and what that could be. There's some I think some efficiencies that could be made at level 2 PSF. And so I just want, something, over the next few months and maybe for next year, but I want to plant the seed right now. I think that we as a board should start looking at our foundational programs. We spent a lot of time with Leader Pathway. We have a lot of stuff going on. There's been a lot of work at the higher ends of our instructional programs, but we all know where the base of the pyramid is, and that's level 1, level 2, the need for ITs, the need for more instructors. And so I guess my challenge is to you as leaders in your, the elected and leaders of your committees, is to really put a focus and how in your discussions that you're having with your committees on these foundational level programs. And I'm not saying that we redo these programs or not, or I'm not saying it needs a whole revision, But I think it needs to be an area of greater focus for this board. And that's my challenge, to you guys as you work with your committees over the next couple months. And as we get towards the fall, and pass, a lot of this rollout stuff, and we've made a simple proposal to the board for e-learning. We really need to kind of put a focus on this as we transition into, 2026 and the importance that it has to our organization. So, yeah, Joe, go ahead.
So I'm just curious if we know what's lacking in that realm, like level 1, level 2, like have we identified through Kelsey, SEIC, and what are people needing that's not being provided, and or have we so usually it's like you need a purpose statement, you need something to know what the goals are, and do we know what we're trying to solve?
Well, I bet there's some people on this call that could weigh in on that from a board level and leadership. So, Suze, you got your hand up.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, and mind you, I'm probably the most ignorant one about SEIC on this call, but I had asked Kelsey to take a look at sort of where the concentrations are. And I think part of it, from my perspective, was coming to, is there saturation points for the organization or a lack of saturation in other areas? And I feel like that would be your starting point. And I think there's a lot of information available that Kelsey could put together for you guys to look to say, do we have too many of this type of instructor in a certain area or state? Or do we need more in a certain area of state? And I do know that there is a definite, Robin Pope could speak to this, but Smart Start is very much about trying to reach a group of people we've never reached before on this very basic level. And I think there's value there as well. So I really wonder if part of your direction should not be to make an evaluation that says that you don't have enough in a particular area, or you have too many instructors of a particular type in a different area. Like, do you need to set some kind of base level that says you need X number of instructors, or you need an X number of ITs in a particular part of the country? Because it's obvious that, we're very concentrated on the coast, but as we start to move inland, that dynamic changes very dramatically, as it does at the very north end and at the very south end. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I find it really interesting to look at that breakout that Kelsey made.
Yeah. Jeff, you had your hand up. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I think everybody's correct here. I think Joe is absolutely right. I think there is that whole part of like we're trying to figure out what are we trying to cater to the people. And I know when we've had our meetings that we've with the groups and everybody set their reps, we were talking about like what we're defining our level 1 paddler and our level 1 instructor, and trying to figure out what those roles are, which is a challenge because we keep going back to like a real world. People who are just getting on the water, unless they're in the scout groups and stuff, are typically going almost into a level 2 program. So then therefore the CPL program comes into play and starts really tackling a lot of that information. But that entry level stuff is, we keep going back to like, it's a hard task to how do you hit that person who's never paddled before? And I know we've got our books there that are out now, and I know we've got some of our programs, but to figuring out like our role, our responsibility, how does this fall on us, and do people actually really want that book? Do they want to read a book to learn about paddling? Do they want to, most of the time they're going to go paddling if the opportunity presents itself in front of them to go paddling. But for them to say, okay, I think I'm going to learn how to paddle, I'm going to buy this book to learn how to paddle. I don't know that happens that often, but I know we got some certain programs, and that's some of the stuff we got to figure out. And as we were going through the leader program, that's where we felt like this was our first stage to get the leader program going, because that's going to take care of what we feel a lot of our level one instructor components were, which were those people that were working for these companies who were not going to be full-time professional sports kayakers and paddlers, things like we all are. You know, they're these kids coming to work for the summer between college, and they're doing these jobs and they don't care once they go back to school. They absolutely don't care to read anything before their class. They don't care to read anything after their class. They just want to come learn about what they got to do for their job and make sure they're doing it right and go home. So, you know, that's some of the things I think we've got to figure out on making things accessible, keeping things fun and realistic for those beginner level people that we want to have, and then figuring out how we're going to, how we spread that information in a reasonable way.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I'm gonna, wrap up the discussion here because we do have motions to get to, but again, I want to plant the seed. It sounds like we, maybe at the October meeting, coming back, we have other projects going on, but coming back at a future time, whether it's October or even December, with some information where we can look, as Joe suggested, have information at hand. What are we trying to accomplish? What's some of the data that we have, as well as some areas that we've all heard these things in our committee meetings. There's a lot of anecdotal information out there, about what we should do or what we're not doing, or what NOWS is doing, what's NOWS, and all the other organizations that we want, in my opinion, we want to be the ones that say what we're doing. We don't want to have something dictated to us. And so as the nation's paddle sports certifying body. So I think it's important, more to come, later, but just really sort of planting the seed on this. And I appreciate everybody's contributions and and we'll attention to this. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's take 2 minutes to do a little stretch break, get some water, that sort of thing, and we'll say 3 minutes. So at 8:20 we'll come back and we'll start the discussion on motions. So just as a reminder, in terms of the motions, the ones that are on the motions on the agenda are considered old business. They were submitted before June 2nd. And so the motion has been made, and they've technically been open for discussion, and there's been some discussion on Slack. A reminder of our sort of policies or practices in regards to this is that the motions being posted in Slack give opportunity to you as a board member to read through the motion, to understand it, and then to ask questions of the motion maker. And so it's not and I realize we're all busy, but we're going to keep the questions on motions or discussion to be limited, because we do have that opportunity to see those beforehand and have discussion. So, all right. So again, we're going to vote on the voting spreadsheet. So Kelsey, is that open and active? Okay. So make sure you have access to the voting spreadsheet. And the first item is an approval of the past meeting minutes. And so we can go ahead and we'll just open voting on that this time.
If anybody is unable to get to the voting spreadsheet or edit it in any way, please feel free to send me your vote in the chat and I will record it for you. Anybody need help or not understand how to use the voting sheet?
Kelsey, this is Ann. Can you vote yes for me, please?
Of course. Thanks, Ann. We are missing G. Are you there? Oh, I see you. Thank you so much, G. Sorry, I see your message now. Pardon me. Robert, you're the only one left. If you want to just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, thank you so very much. This approval of the past meeting minutes has been passed unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion number 1 is our instructor trainer candidate evaluation. I'll just give a quick summary of that project. In the March meeting, we created a work group of ITEs from multiple disciplines to come together and create a template for instructor trainer candidates and their evaluations. This would be used by ITEs. And the thought process was we're going to get multidisciplinary ITE work group together, and we're going to make this template that has common sections that would be used by all disciplines, and then create an open section. It ended up being section 7, which would be left for the disciplines to use for either discipline and or level specific content, and it would be up to the disciplines to develop that content of 7 to 8 criteria for each of their candidate evaluations. So the work group was formed shortly or during the meeting and started work shortly after. And they came up with a draft, and I believe the draft was ready sometime in April. I forget the dates, but we came up with a rough draft, and then it was sent out to 10 ITEs that were not part of the work group, and they had a chance to weigh in with feedback. And so what was put forward, and then the work group revised it. What was the outcome of that process was the trainer candidate ITC evaluation sample that we have that John Browning put together. That's kind of a mock-up of what it would look like in CMS. And then also a guidance document that gave some background to what each evaluation criteria was and how to interpret it. And so put forward in the motion was this was the sample IT candidate evaluation, and then an evaluation guide. And so the motion that's brought forward is to approve these draft documents and task discipline committees with the completion of the discipline and level specific criteria that would be added to these. And we had a date of July 15th. Now there's been a friendly amendment that's been made by Rachel to push back that date. Rachel, what was the date that you suggested in your friendly amendment?
I had September, October, just to get us a little bit out of the busy season. And I also saw John Browning had, maybe by the beginning of the 2026 season, and it doesn't have to be part of it. So just a conversation on giving us more time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we do need more time. I agree. And so I, accept a friendly amendment on that to, I'd say, how do we feel about a October 15th date. That would allow us to get, give more time to the discipline committees, as well as, still have time to move this forward and pass it in the 2025 calendar year. So, would you accept that as October 15th as a date, Rachel? Okay, so I do accept October 15th as a date in that friendly amendment. Yes, Ashley.
I was just gonna say that's right before the big event, the big collab. And yeah, it's for Kelsey. Yeah. And I just wonder if that timing might be a little inconvenient. So September 15th or November 15th.
Yeah, the 15th is the first date of the ACA's annual conference Paddlefest event. So just FYI, I hope that all of you are there, and we can't submit this by that date because we're all hanging out. But yeah, that particular day, it will be a very tough one.
Yeah. I mean, my thought process is that, we're going to get that the work group would, as soon as we receive these from discipline committees, there'll be a little bit of back and forth, just to make sure everything's, some feedback provided to the discipline committees, although it will largely be their decision in terms of what's on their ITC evaluations. So the winter meeting is what, early December, like December 2nd or something?
I believe the second is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to have enough time to get this motion in for consideration and discussion and vote in December is my end goal. So I don't know that November 15th would give us enough time, but maybe November 1st would give us enough time. Hey, Alicia.
Yeah, so I have a question about that. I guess like previously with like when discipline committees make their candidate evaluations, we just have kind of like made our evals and put them in the CMS. Are you saying that like each discipline needs to put our discipline specific thing and then turn it back into you and then have it voted on again?
I mean, that is true. Discipline committees are responsible for their own evaluations. So, to your point, we could just simply give a date for discipline. We could approve this or approve a draft of it to be, reviewed by the disciplines and have them introduce their content by a certain date.
I mean, that's just how it's worked before, so I wanted to
Yeah.
be sure I understood how it was working this time.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
unattached.
we've never done this as a SEIC board. It's always been kind of individual efforts. So, um, I'm open. I'm open to suggestions as what's the best process for us. Yeah, Joe.
I'm just thinking with the UP, we've always just done the same thing that Alicia was just telling us about, and we've had our own, and I was wondering what gives rise to the need for some centralized system. For us, it's always worked really, really well, and we've had we have our own paperwork and our own checklists and our own kind of standard form.
Well, it may have worked for instructor candidates, but it definitely doesn't work for IT candidates. This is an IT candidate evaluation. They're all over the board. If you go in CMS and look at this, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. We have some that are ITC candidate evaluations and disciplines that are not even the current version of the instructor candidate, evaluation. It's like 3 versions ago. We have some that are, and almost none of them are. I can't say that there's one that is suitable to instructor trainer candidates in all of CMS. So it has they're mostly like copies of instructors. So, we know that there's different standards and criteria for instructor trainer candidates than instructors.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of instructor trainer candidates. I guess we're just small enough that it's
Yeah.
always worked really well. And it's just with communication, but no, that makes sense to me. If
Yeah.
they're really that diverse and that just disparate, disparate,
Yeah.
then we need to get some kind of standard.
Yeah. And I'm not, yeah, go ahead. Let's get some other voices in here. So I don't know if John or Kelsey was first. I didn't quite see.
I can be quick. I think, yeah, just to clarify, this is instructor trainer candidates. There has never been pre-CMS, there was no such thing as an instructor trainer candidate eval. It was just sign the paper and mail it in, right? I endorse this person. And right now, the instructor trainer candidate evals mirror remarkably closely the instructor ones, which, have a lot of focus on hard skills and on things that they have already been reviewed on in their instructor certification in the past. And anyway, my point being, I'm kind of aiming towards Alicia's question is how do we do this? Because each discipline is responsible for their own subject matter, that's discipline specific. And I would say, Ryan, about the pathway for this is that this working group or this IT candidate eval, we agree on some common general, if you want to call it that, or overarching that should apply to all disciplines, that is not discipline specific, and integrate that with whatever each discipline's existing IT candidate evaluation is. So they don't have to submit every single level of IT candidate eval to be approved. Like, does that make sense? We're just going on the commonality. And of course, each discipline may have some more or less that needs to be added to that, but rather than everybody resubmit every eval for every level, just say we're going to insert this that this group has agreed upon and are the baseline standards that every IT candidate has to have.
Well, what's been put forward is a lot. I think there's 6 or 7 sections. So if we're going to be inserting these to what already exists, these are going to become massive forms.
Well, what I'm saying is that the disciplines can decide what is specific to them that gets added to it, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the essence of what we're asking discipline committees to do. Look at what's been come up with and has a lot of consensus from ITEs, and then add whatever you feel needs to be in there for your discipline. And if it's the same for every level, that's fine. If it's different at each level of IT, that would be up to the disciplines.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Joe, I do know that Universal has had a slightly different IT process than all of our other disciplines, and it has been working well, but nobody else knows what it is who isn't in Universal right now. So the point being is that there's a bunch of really great tidbits in every single one of these disciplines that would make something really holistic and great. And we haven't ever made the point of sticking it all together and seeing what that looks like yet.
Yeah, no, I respond to that because I would lower my hand too, is to think, I was just going to say, we've had one that I came in on at least 16, 17 years ago. We have a actual list of IT candidate criteria and subject matter expertise. What do people do and what have they demonstrated and how do they demonstrate it? We've always had that. So I don't know.
I'm sorry, Joe, but we just keep the time in this discussion limited to 2 minutes per speaker. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say that I think what we've developed, is a general basis that all ITs ought to raise to be evaluated at. And in doing that, we did a lot of going through the notes from the ITE conference that we had in Denver a few years ago, and also through the SEIC policy map. And so I think what we've got is a good basis, and that now we can vote on that and accept it and move on. And if the disciplines want to add anything to it under their discipline specific, they're welcome to do that. We would encourage them to do that before, the beginning of next year. And I don't know that we want to drag out the vote on what we've got so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Alan.
Yeah, I think just so to help maybe make sure we're all on the same page and just for the expediency of this meeting here, I think maybe we should just vote on what we have here as the universal application, and then just set a deadline for each discipline to add in their own specifics. We could even set that like the first of the year. By the first of the year, the disciplines need to have all those specifics in, but we don't need to come back and revote or revisit it at that time.
Yeah. Mike.
I'm agreeing with Kelsey and John. We're voting on a draft. I mean, to make it into say, some finite thing we're all that touchy about is not necessary. Vote on the draft with the generalities and then fill in the blanks. But don't drag it out.
So maybe, I don't know, Alan or John or whoever will someone make a friendly amendment that reflects what we're currently saying? Because I would agree to what I'm hearing.
I would make a friendly amendment to for us now to vote on what we have before us as the universal template that we would then, the disciplines would then add on their specific questions at the end.
By December 31st. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice round date because we don't have to come back and revisit it per discipline. We can just say, have it done by the new year, and we voted on the universal part.
We'll go quick, John, and then Rachel, and yeah.
I would personally be interested if we pass this today. I would be interested in probably implementing them from CKC fairly quickly.
Okay.
Just to get it out there and start to know.
Yeah. Rachel. You're on mute, Rachel.
Thank you. Sorry. I think it's important that we have a set date that we can go. Some people can go live beforehand, but I don't know if we have candidates who are ITCs in multiple disciplines, but it could get confusing for them if one discipline is changing over and one isn't too fast. So I kind of like the shared date and then December 31st or earlier, just because I think at the end of this year is when we're renewing different teams for the committee. So I wouldn't go past that.
Yeah, go with Alicia, and then I'll formally accept the friendly amendment or not.
Yeah, just to say, I think it would be great if we could start using, like if we vote on this and it passes today, that we could start using them right away. And then disciplines can add their discipline specific stuff between now and the end of the year when they get a chance. But I think it would be great to go ahead and just implement the overall. I do have one question about the guide that goes along with it in terms of like, where will that document live and how can we ensure that ITEs are actually using that document when filling out the eval? Because I feel like the eval absolutely needs the document because like depth and breadth, for example, like could mean totally different things, and an ITE could like it really, the way that it's written, it needs the guide. And so yeah, where's that guide going to live and how are we going to ensure that ITEs are using it?
Well, you could just make it a link at the top of the form in the CMS. I don't know what you do to assure that they're using it, but just, every single form, that page, just with all of the other wording, has a link to it. It says, use
Maybe
this.
even put a click the, like in the other ones it has click, the wording is so weird and my brain is not super functional right now, but it's that you have to like acknowledge how the form is being used by clicking meet standard. You could click meet standard for, I used this form with the link.
Yeah.
Is that something that we could do?
Yeah. We'll integrate it on the form link or. So I do accept the friendly amendment to make this available upon if the motion passes, and to task the discipline committees, to have theirs by December 31st of this year. So the discussion ends, and I believe voting opens, as this is already an active motion.
Thank y'all. Okay, so that means it's time to vote in the voting spreadsheet. If anybody, this is motion 1, by the way, column E. If anybody is unable to get to the spreadsheet or update it, please shoot me. Hey, Ann, I see you. Thank you. Shoot me a chat if you like. I would also say, as these go about, whichever discipline comes first, or adopts it first, I say that we share that, with all of the ITEs in that discipline, and others as related, and yeah, not keep all of our good ideas in one place. Let's spread the love, and it might also kickstart other disciplines to get working on their version as well. All right. We're waiting on Robert and GSE. Thank you. Robert, if you'd like, you can give me a thumbs up if you're having trouble with the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm a voting member here, but happy to vote.
You are a voting member.
You are. As the board of directors chair appointment, you are a voting member now. Okay. That should have been clarified. Apologies, Robert. Welcome to the club. We're all here. Yay. Okay. Thank y'all very much, everybody. This motion passes unanimously. Thank you so very much. Moving along. We have a time check. We got 15 minutes. Everybody really focus. Lean in.
All right. And if we need to extend, we can do that. But next, we'll replace motion 2 was submitted by Ann. Ann, we'll give you the floor.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Ann for the river kayaking chair, and I just have to be review. Motion 2 was based on replacing the skills assessments with the skills assessment guide. Just to clarify, that was motion 2, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, and what the committee came to was that there was, some confusion between having both the skills assessment forms and the skills assessment guides. There was some, the consistencies were lacking in the 2 forms to some degree. So what we came to was that we just wanted to take the old forms off and just have the skills assessment guides as the resource for, for doing skills assessments for level 2 to 5. So that's what we're proposing. And we have, and I need to tell Kelsey about this, but we've added, another piece that could be utilized on the phone, so that you break it down to, L2, 3, and then L4, 5, so that people could have it wouldn't be as unwieldy. But that's the follow up. So anyway, that's what I'm proposing and looking for support on. That seems clear to folks. That's what I got.
Sorry, I have a question, Ann. This is Kelsey.
Sure. Yeah,
my question is, I like the guide. I see its utility. And my concern, though, is that assessment candidates, people who are trying to figure out what level of assessment they need or should take or should start with, this will be remarkably challenging for them to interpret.
Yeah.
I like the existing assessment outlines because they come with all that introductory language, course prerequisites, course duration, who can teach it, without them having to interpret the grid.
Yeah,
that's why I think that they need to be kept. Even if you were to scrap some pieces of the current skills assessments and say refer to the guide or refer to the grid, whatever. But I really think it's the guide is not serving the end user in terms of clarity and consistency. I think it's confusing, and they'll have a hard time figuring that out.
Okay, I hear you.
Rachel.
I get. Oh,
I was just curious, if you got rid of the paper skills assessment, would the skills assessment still look the same in CMS, or that would still be where people could see it, correct?
How do you mean where they could see it?
So if you're getting rid of the paper ones, like when an instructor goes in to do an assessment in CMS to be able to move it forward, that you're still keeping, right? And that mirrors the paper documents. So if someone wanted to see the evaluation, they could look at CMS. It just wouldn't be as clear in paper format.
I think the skills assessment criteria, the skills, the pieces, all of that are the same, and they remain consistent right now with the current level by level skills assessment documentation. But for the candidates or the students, they would
have to search through CMS to find it, which would be hard.
To find that would be very challenging. And in fact, if someone is not yet a member, they cannot see it.
Right. That would be the hard part. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kelsey, I hear you. We can take it back to the team. I mean, we can put it on hold. It's fine.
I really appreciate, Anne, all the work that y'all have done to try and simplify things and to make like centralized info. I just think we need another perspective of what is just a brand new river paddler who needs this for their summer job.
Right.
How do they figure out the difference between all of these and what they need to do before they get there? And I think that's a challenge for all disciplines, not just river kayak.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I just want to hop in. I read through the guide and the grid, as whatever you want to call it, as Kelsey was calling it, the grid. I really like it. I mean, as an instructor, I think it's a really excellent resource. And I guess if I was thinking about using it, I would have the current assessment sample skills course or the sample assessment as like a sample outline that you would then, as the instructor, use the guide as your in-class resource with. Did that kind of jive with how you were thinking about using it as well? Anyway, I just want to put that out there, that I think to me that they work like they could work very well just hand in hand, to kind of one's like the front facing and the other's the like it's what the instructor would use. But I like
I hear you. And I would say for time's sake, we're good to go. I would move on. I appreciate the conversation and, but we're good. We can move on.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Alan, for the feedback. Appreciate it.
I really do like it. And like maybe
I hear you.
Just say like we could just add it to it as a better version.
Yeah. All right. And so I believe so that is officially withdrawn. Motion 2. And then I believe we're moving to motion 4, which is the updated RAF guide examiner with Alicia.
Is the other kayak motion also withdrawn?
I believe it's withdrawn on CMS. Yes.
Okay, the one about renaming.
Yeah, I read through it. It seemed too complicated at this moment. So
okay, fair. Yeah. I love it though, and I'm probably going to follow suit with rafting.
Okay, well, I think it's worth a discussion, not necessarily at the moment, but yeah, we're game. We just need to let's talk later.
Cool. Okay. This is just a motion. So at the last SEIC meeting, rafting updated their guides, their raft guide certification, and we were so focused on updating the raft guide certification and writing an assessor's guide to go with it that we totally forgot to update the endorsement. As an raft instructor, you have to have the endorsement to give out the guide cert. So this is just the updated endorsement. The biggest changes, other than like, adding in the changes from the actual criteria, is that we changed the duration and the ratios. So we had originally put duration as a half day, but it turns out that on average it takes about 2 hours to run this, and it's a classroom module. So we also changed the ratios from standard raft ratios to an unlimited ratio, because ultimately, you know, I could run a Zoom meeting and endorse 60 instructors. Not that I foresee that happening, but just that the ratios didn't seem to make sense because we weren't on water and in boats. So those were kind of the two big changes that I thought folks might have questions about.
All right, we'll take discussion again. If you know, we'll limit it to 2 minutes per person. We'll put up discussion on this. So your experience has been that this has taken about 2 hours to run through this endorsement.
Yeah, and usually I teach it like as an evening module during an ICW as like a not mandatory, like you can come if you want to get the endorsement. And on average, it takes me about 2 hours. I've done it in 1 hour with a one-on-one. So we put 1 hour as the minimum because that's the, like I say, with one-on-one, it usually takes about an hour. With a whole class and questions, it takes about 2, has been my experience.
Great. Thank you.
Shall we vote?
Vote.
Yeah, let's vote.
All right, everybody, this is motion 4, column H. G, I see you. Thank you. All right, I think, is Anne still here? She might have had a, no, she's here. Okay. And yes, I see you. Thank you so much. All right, Robert, you're the last one. Did you say something? I'm sorry. Thumb up. I appreciate you. Thank you. G, good luck with your course today. G's got to leave y'all, but it's tomorrow where he is. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Sincerely appreciate it. This motion also passes unanimously.
Great. Well, I've perfectly planned this meeting to eliminate the time for dance moves. And so we only have time here to talk about the upcoming SEIC meetings. And so the fall meeting is September 29th at 7 p.m. It'll be another 2-hour format. And then our winter meeting December 1st. Of course, we have the big event, the Shindig, in October, and hope to see everyone there. We'll follow back up with a few things from this meeting in Slack, and that is specifically the e-learning modules and our need to push to move that forward over the next couple of months. So I appreciate your attendance and attention during the meeting, and we're going to wrap this thing up early. So
somebody needs to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
So move.
All right, we've got some seconds.
Second.
Thank y'all so much for taking the time to be here.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks,
Good
Kelsey.
meeting, Ryan. Kelsey.